Hi guys, today we're going to write another piece of software which is going to be a simple text editor. And by simple I mean really simple. So it will be able to load a text file and probably edit and save that same text file. Yeah, that should be enough. And we're also going to use MVC pattern because that is sort of the core pattern of JavaFX for software development. Right. I haven't really prepared anything, so I'm going to code as we go along. And if we run into any issues, then bear with me. First things first, package, which is editor. And we're going to create a new Java class editor app, which is going to be in the main class. Also increase the font for those of you who've got smaller screens. So see if that's better. Extends application. Yeah, there we go. Then we'll need our definition of user interface, which is UI.fxml. And I'm going to use scene builder, which is basically an application that allows you to create UI by just dragging and dropping stuff. But I'm only going to use it as a template for certain things, and then I'm going to switch to manual editing because scene builder creates a lot of noise in the XML markup. So open workspace. I'll just need to find stuff that I need. Text tutorials. Source. There we go. Editor. That's the one. So if I just drop, I need border pane, and then menu controls, something. I think I need container for menu. Why is it custom? Yeah, there you go. It's menu bar. So menu bar is going to go on top. We'll probably need some sort of status information down the bottom. If we add a horizontal box, that should do. And the main stuff will be occupied by just text area. So it's controls, text area, there we go. And that is probably everything I need from scene builder. So I'm just going to save this. And this is the code that the scene builder produced. So if you don't have scene builder application, you can just copy this, although we won't need certain bits, so that is just noise. This can be removed. Don't need that either. So I'm just going to clean up a bit. So this is top, bottom, and then center is the text area. So we're going to add the usual stuff like fxid, area, or area text. This I'm not sure what I'm going to do with. Just leave it as it is for now. Menu item, close. We don't need edit, not in this tutorial. Help, Final leave it. We could easily do a small dialogue saying what the program is about. Right. Menu text file close. Might as well add certain other things like so we want to be able to open a file, so and save. It's going to be save and load. Text is the stuff that you see on the menu itself, so when this will be shown. Save, load, close. What else we need? That should do it. Well, I guess we can specify what actions they should perform. So this will be on save, on load, and on close. And this is on about. Yeah, that's about right. We specify this as a method to be called from the controller. The controller that we haven't yet created, we'll do now. Just going to call it controller, or rather edit the controller, because otherwise I'll end up with too many controllers in the same project. Yep, that should do. We're going to have our fxml field for text area, which is the main bit. Area text, I think I called it. Then we'll need to define our methods on save. Just going to copy this. This is on load, on close. We also got on about. Now that we've created the controller bit and the UI bit, which is view, we can now link the two together by, well, we'll need to show the stage at some point. We'll need to create a scene and then load. Right. The first thing we'll do, XML loader, we create an instance of that by passing get class, get resource, the resource, which is UI.xml. It must be in the same package, or if you're using Maven directory structure, then it should be under resources and under same package as well. Loader, we need to specify how to load our controller using controller factory. Type T, and then we return new controller. Is it editor? Yes, new editor controller. We do that because we want to be able to pass in our model as well, which is editor model, and a few methods in there. So should have access to model, editor model. Editor controller is our constructor, which takes model, and then we assign our model. In a slightly more sophisticated application, you would do something like you'd specify an annotation, say inject, which will be injected by a dependency injection framework like Google Juice or Spring, so that you don't actually need to set up dependencies yourself. In this case, we don't have any, so we don't have any framework, so we use just by creating an instance of editor model ourselves. Finally, we need to create a stage, set scene, loader, load. So that should pretty much do everything we need. Preferred size, probably 800, 600. And on about, which is actually unclose. If we just do that, that should be able to give us some indication of whether it's working or not. So if we launch this, actually, if you're not using any IDE, you'll probably need to define public static void main so that compiler can see the starting point. Can now run this, and hopefully there's something wrong went there. XML, no control specified. Did I not say what control to use? Right, JavaFX. I also have to specify it here. Editor, the controller. Okay, that seems to be the case. So that is just essentially creating the factory for creating the controller, and then the actual controller, the stuff that this will be bound to, you need to specify using FX controller. All right, so this is our application. We have file, help, and then that is our text area where we could type stuff. And that is our horizontal box where we should ideally put some sort of status bar and then say what's going on within the application. File close, that should close the application. Yep, that calls essentially that which closes down, shuts down the JVM. Right, that should now be transferred to model. So essentially everything is done within the model. The controller is simply like a bridge between the view and the model. Whenever you click something on the screen that gets called here, this sort of in turn delegates all its methods to model and modifies inputs so that the model kind of doesn't need to filter any of the invalid input. So we'll have methods like close, save, and then we take something in here. We'll probably need to define our data structure at this point, and our data structure is going to be just text file. Text file, private final path. This is the representation of the file. Then we'll need some sort of list, which is going to store our lines of text, essentially, string content. And we'll need a constructor for that text file. We're taking a file and then a list of strings, which is the content. Assign the file, and we might want to, actually I'm not quite sure whether we want to make it unmodifiable or not, because it's nice to have data structures which are not, which are immutable, essentially. That means you cannot change the state of the data or state of the object once you've created it. And this is not really that, because list is modifiable, and if we return a reference to a list, we can modify it, and thus the structure is no longer immutable. Immutable data structures are really good for multi-threading, because you can be safe, or you can be sure that the data isn't being modified on one thread while it's being read on a different thread. Well, we're not going to worry too much about that for now. Return file. So this is the file from which it has been loaded. or to which is going to be saved, I suppose. That should do. Get file and then list string, get contents, content. We could, I suppose, do. I'm not going to worry about this and return content directly. At a later stage, we might fix that by assigning unmodifiable list when it returns, and you try to modify it, it will throw an exception. For now, that should be fine. Right, so save should take now our text file, then actually that's it. That's the only thing we need. There is a class called files, which is essentially a collection of static methods that allow you to easily perform IO operations. And what we need is write something. Yeah, that should do. Write. So we take text, file, and then get contents. Try catch, because we don't really. I don't particularly like the Java checked exceptions, because I think they're just noise. When there is an exception, you have to handle it, but in these cases, it will be nicer to return some sort of result, kind of object of IO operation, which is not going to be an exception, but it's going to be a normal object, which will pretty much contain data about whether the exception occurred, or whether you could save the whole thing correctly and stuff like that. We might actually create such object at some point. For now, I'll just leave it like this. So this is going to write. Does it not take any? Yeah, open option. I think it's going to by default override its standard open option. Create new. Failing if the file already exists. No, we don't want that. Yeah, create I think is better. Right, save. We will also need load, which gives us back a text file. Load, essentially what we need is a file. So this is actual physical file that we're trying to represent. Files read, I suppose we could just read all lines from that, because our file isn't going to be that large. So that is going to read everything to a string, lines. So we need to import this. Again, there's exceptions. Right, so we have to return. Yeah, so this is sort of our normal text file, which will contain the file and the lines. At this point, we need to return something as well, because otherwise we won't compile. Right, so what if we do, yeah, I'm actually going to create IYourResult of t. And this is going to be a result of our IO operation. So if we put something like t, which is our data, and billion, okay, IYourResult, it takes data, and actually first it'll take billion, which is the state or the actual result of the operation, whether it's successful or not. and data as well. So we can pass in null if we want to. Then we would simply need to check if it has data or not. And if you want to be even more sort of sophisticated, then you could use optional, which wraps nullable data and then provides sort of an object, which you can also check. But IYourResult is already a wrapper itself, so I'm not going to create an optional as well. This okay to okay, and this data. We'll need to be able to check is okay, which returns that. It need get data. But first, we also want to check if it has data, so that we don't have to check for null ourselves. Return data is not null. So this will essentially give us the check. Right. Now, this whole stuff becomes slightly better, I think. IYourResult of text file. If everything goes fine, then we return new IYourResult of the text file. So we essentially wrap the text file with our IYourResult. We'll probably need to specify what exactly we're passing in. Right, we also need to specify whether it's successful or not, so it is successful. If there is an exception, then return new IYourResult false and null. If you want even better looking code, then you could add some static factory methods saying IYourResult.success for that, and sort of omit this kind of thing so that you don't actually pass in true or false. Because if someone was reading this code without actually having an ID or any kind of support, and it's not really clear what that true really means. Right, what else do we need? Controller, right, on about doesn't really need to have any kind of model backup or model sort of code. So alert, I'm going to just create new alert. This is a way of creating JavaFX dialogues. Information, alert set, header text. We don't need header text. Alert set title about, set content. Yeah. This is text editor. This is a simple text editor called editor app. And then you might append sort of version of your application. This is typically what you have when you click about. So it's essentially like this, help about, and then you get all the information about the stuff that you're using. Show, I should do it on close. We call model close. On save, we first need to click on load so that we could actually load something. And the way to do it is to use file chooser. Yes, file chooser, new file chooser, set initial directory, that one. So that if you do /, that specifies the current directory that you're operating in, or in other words, the directory where your program started. File chooser set, what else can we set? File name, no, that's it, I think. Show open dialog. And we can pass in null because it says so, I think. Yes, null can be passed somewhere there. Yes, it's nullable. Right, and it returns a file. Right, it returns an old kind of file, which is the original IO file, which we can easily convert to our new IO file, which is file to path. If file is not null, because it will be null if the user didn't select anything. Model load file to path. This is how you convert legacy file to new representation of the file in Java. And this load gives us IYourResult of text file. And this is how we can easily avoid exception kind of handling stuff, because you're given a type IO, which is a sort of normal object. It's not an exceptional case. So you could do queries like get data, has data is okay. And the first thing to do is essentially to check if it has data, or actually if it's okay. So if the operation was okay. If not, well then you show some sort of this kind of dialogue saying the operation failed, essentially. If you want a bit more sort of access to your exception, to the exception that occurred, you could easily define another field saying exception, and then have accessor methods to that exception, so that you could display that on screen, which is nice because users want to know what happened wrong most of the time. Controller else, we're gonna just do failed because I'm assuming that it's going to succeed. Then we check, actually we might want to do this in the same instance. If it's okay and has data, then we unwrap what we wrapped before, which is the text file, IO get data. And because we're using generics type T, you could essentially carry any kind of data, any kind of objects that you want, which is nice. So that class essentially becomes reusable for well, pretty much everything. Text file, what we want is the contents of that text file to put to area text, set text file get contents. Although I suspect this won't work. Yep. What I do is clear and then text file get content for each area text append text. There we go. On save, we want essentially the same, almost. We're going to do that. Show save dialog, which gives us the file. Actually, we don't really need to do that because that's what you would do if you were doing save as. Because this allows you to rename the file that you're saving. Because we already loaded it, we could easily just save the thing using the same text file, current text file. So we'll just do that. On save, we'll just create a new text file because we kind of assume that this text file is immutable, which means that all the changes have to be made into a new text file. Essentially, like you operate with strings. So new text file, which takes in current text file, get file, and a list of strings which we need to obtain from area text. Get text, right, we have to format this. Get text, well, we could split it using new line, and then because that gives us back an array, arrays as a list, and then do that. Yep, there we go. You could also make this save method return IYourResult as well. Obviously without data. All you need to do is if it succeeded or not, because if it didn't, then you probably want to let the user know that the save operation did not succeed. Right. So yeah, every controller call essentially results in model call, which you can see in most of our methods, except for this one, where we simply show the dialog, which we don't need to know, which we don't need anything to take from model. Although we could take version from the model, I suppose, if we wanted to. Right, let's test this. Right, we'll need a text file, so I'm just going to create one. Cd desktop test.txt. I'm just going to write, this is a test. This is another line. That'll do. So close this cat test, so we can see the lines within text. File load. If we go to desktop, we should see test. Yep. And as you can see, it loaded it into our thing, but in the formatting is off. It is because in here we also need to specify new line operator at the end. So it's a line pen text line, sorry, pen text line pen this. This will create the new line operator thing. So if we rerun this, we load the file. Yep, as you can see, we've done that. Now if we add something, edit line, and then we can click save. Hopefully it's saved. We can now go back and see. Yep, there you go. We've just added this to our existing text file. So this is essentially a very tiny, almost, text editor, which allows you to simply load a file in and then edit it and then save it back. And if we click on About, we get this message, which is this alert. Finally, we can close the application, which essentially results in the application being closed, or rather, clicking the X in the top right corner. Right, is there anything else? So yeah, you probably want to modify this a bit so that you can operate on multiple files. You probably want to change this into an alert. so that it shows that your loading didn't actually happen and the loading failed. You can easily test this by throwing either your own exception somewhere along those lines, or just passing in false in here and then see what happens in the load method of the controller. I will put this all on GitHub because there's quite a lot of things that need to be tied together, so it'll be easier for you to follow. This could also be extended using the exception that I showed earlier, and then you could have like get exception, stuff like that. You could also do this public static IYourResult of t, actually IYourResult of something that we don't care really, and do like that, failure, and then take, say, error message, and then return new IYourResult here saying false. So you don't actually need to use these Boolean values all the time, like here, because it's not really clear what you're trying to convey. And if you've got a field of exception, you could actually pass in this object directly, so you don't have to worry about printing stack trace to the console, because nobody reads consoles anyway. Same here, you could add IYourResult in here to signify that your save operation succeeded. Other extensions might include editing, like you could, I don't know, put some kind of thingies like undo button. Actually, I'm just going to look, yeah, undo, cut, copy, paste. All these kind of things might be useful for a text editor. Apart from that, this tutorial, I think, has completed what I aimed for. And thanks for watching.